Log Horizon, Volume 1, Chapter 2, Part 2. Shiroe and Naotsugu left their hotel and headed for the market on the morning of the 5th day to buy their food for the day. Naotsugu looked downcast as he dragged his feet on the way there. What is it? Nothing. I just feel disheartened about thinking about the nasty food we've been eating. Shiroe could empathize with Naotsugu. He didn't think he was a gourmet, and his diet in the real world was nothing to be proud of, but he realized now how good his meals were in the real world. The fried chicken of the fast food chain was so tasty. Packs of ramen that costed 68 yen and yakisoba bread were great too. They were really an amazing delicacy. Also red tea, coffee, and sodas. All the beverages tasted like tap water, which was really unbearable. These beverages were made with ingredients that included well water anyways. Well water tasted like tap water too, so it tasted like tap water because of their tongues. It was all just normal water. It was still water after adding various ingredients, which felt like a scam to them. I guess we can only eat that. Well, you are right, but I think we can get better food even in prison. I saw it once on a TV special about Abashiri prison. The food looked nice. Yeah. Now that Naotsugu mentioned it, Shiroe felt the same way. Shiroe studied in a public school before going to high school. The lunch provided by the school might not be great cuisine, but it was much better than the soggy crackers in this world. I wonder about something. Wondering about what? Is this a torture chamber where God forces us to eat bland food all day? How could that be, Shiroe thought. But it couldn't be denied after careful consideration. It might sound ridiculous, but they were in a ridiculous situation right now, so they couldn't take anything lightly as a joke. If that is true, this god has a good sense in torturing. I know, right? Forcing us to eat poisonous food that makes you puke blood is some kind of hell, right? It has the feeling of devils force-feeding you. Shiroe seemed to recall a level of hell in Buddhism which seemed to have this sort of punishment. But the current situation is different. This stuff should have nutritious value and no poison. The taste is bland, but you can still eat it. Just eating a meal should be fine. But there's nothing else. It'll always be this taste, and our morale will drop deeper and deeper. This is a high-end level of harassment, right? This is why I say this is a good sense of torture. But his taste of torture is irritating. Just as Shiroe and Naotsugu were chatting leisurely about this, a pebble fell beside his feet on the asphalt road following this sound. Shiroe looked up and saw a 3-story building on the verge of collapse that used to be a shophouse. At the entrance was a tall man. It's Akatsuki. Black hair and dark clothes with fine facial features. The man did not remove the mask covering his mouth as he acknowledged Shiroe with his eyes. An acquaintance? Yeah, this is Akatsuki, an assassin. Shiroe walked towards Akatsuki as he introduced him to Naotsugu. Shiroe met the extremely silent Akatsuki a year ago. He insisted on communicating through text in this age where voice chat was prevalent, but it helped create the atmosphere of an assassin. There were many players who focused on role-playing like Akatsuki. Shiroe saw them as players who placed emphasis on the atmosphere of the game. When Elder Tales was just a game, Akatsuki didn't act as a player controlling the character Akatsuki, but as a resident of Elder Tales known as Akatsuki, basing all his words and actions on this. It was rude to call this playing pretend, since this was another way to enjoy the game, so no one could criticize. Shiroe thought Akatsuki was a competent player. Silent, but didn't bother others or curry for favors, the opposite of Maryelle in a sense. He would carry out his duties perfectly in a party and didn't forget to care for his allies. Care meant more than words of encouragement. Such a player was valuable in this time and age. An important thing was the lack of awkwardness in his silence. A quiet atmosphere could make you feel uneasy, but Shiroe felt a sense of kinship in some ways, and was not uncomfortable fighting alongside him. Shiroe felt that they were not totally silent, but were communicating without words. Take their teamwork and minute supporting actions, for instance. Any small interactions during the rest between battles was a conversation of care and concern. Shiroe's impression of him was a professional assassin when adventuring together. What is it, Akatsuki? Akatsuki gestured with his chin and entered the rundown building. It didn't appear to be a separate zone, just a backdrop in the field zone. They entered the dimly lit ruins on Akatsuki's invitation. What's he like, Shiroe? Akatsuki is a role player who is very competent in the game. He's probably depressed by this situation too. Naotsugu asked quietly, and Shiroe replied in an equally soft tone. They couldn't see Akatsuki anymore. He probably headed to the very back of the building. This seemed a bit too rushed from Akatsuki's usual demeanor. He could smell wet sand. The morning sun shone through the gaps of the partially destroyed walls and the small windows, illuminating the room. This was indeed a shop, and was some sort of restaurant. It was a vast and chaotic space with furniture scattered all over. Akatsuki turned around and looked at Naotsugu, part troubled and part accusatory. Akatsuki, this is Naotsugu. He is a guardian, and my reliable old friend that can be trusted.
I'm Naotsugu. Nice to meet you. Whether you're an open pervert or a closet pervert, let's get along well.
Shiroe introduced Naotsugu to Akatsuki after seeing his gaze. Naotsugu greeted with his overly familiar style. Even though Shiroe thought he shouldn't talk like this to someone he just met, Akatsuki seemed too melancholic to bother with the crude Naotsugu. Was Akatsuki so tense before? Shiroe thought about this in the suffocating silence. I remember he was a quiet but flexible player who liked battling. I've been looking for you, Akatsuki said in a barely audible feminine voice after a short silence. What business do you have with me? He still seemed deeply troubled. He took a few deep breaths before steeling himself and said, I want you to sell me an appearance reset potion. Akatsuki spoke softly, but the contents were audible. But the meaning behind those words took some time to register in Shiroe's mind. Shiroe took some time to think about what he meant. Appearance reset potion. This was a limited item that was distributed during one of the events in Elder Tales. Shiroe remembered it was a promotional event to attract more players to Elder Tales, and this was the reward item for participating. This promotional event was a combined effort with an internet broadcast, but the content was very crude. Just a mediocre voice actress doing a radio interview to promote her song. It was a failure of an event that the developers wanted to pretend never happened. Since it was a game with 20 years of history, there were several such events that were beyond the word stupid. The variety of items limited to events was also very wide. The characters that represented the player in the game were set at the beginning of the game. 8 races, 12 classes, name, gender, as well as height, body shape, hairstyle, hair, and eye color could all be adjusted. Body shapes were customized using a dozen figures like chest circumference, leg length, waist, and shoulder width. Since your appearance and body shape didn't affect battle abilities, lots of players opted to use their actual appearance in the game. Appearance Reset Potion allowed you to change the appearance of your character that was set, just like its name suggested. As previously explained, appearance didn't affect fighting strength, so this was just an item to use for fun. The item was rare since the event was a failure, but it was a good way to change the mood of the game. At least until now. Akatsuki, could it be... Akatsuki glared at Shiroe. You are a girl? Akatsuki straightforwardly nodded, contrary to her professional hitman look. Her feminine voice sounded like a girl, although she tried her best to conceal it. In this world where conversation with a keyboard was impossible, she was unable to hide her gender anymore.
This is a surprise.
Naotsugu, standing beside Shiroe, was also stiff from shock.
To read along with Log Horizon, or to read any other fine light novels, go to Baka-Tsuki.org. Baka-Tsuki.org. If you want to voice a character for audio light novel Log Horizon, contact me at youtubecontact22@yahoo.com. If you want to pay for your services, I can pay some money, just not a lot, and I am willing to negotiate a price. You can also volunteer if you wish. Again, just contact me at the specified email address. I'm also willing to reply to any constructive criticism, so if you have any ideas for audio light novel Log Horizon, please leave them in the comments. If you like audio light novel Log Horizon, please leave a like or a comment, as it really does motivate me to do these.